So what I'm going to do today is I'm going to run through how I base my figures originally and what I do now that I've got this Luke's app stuff. So first of all, I get my trusty household filler, which is just pre-mixed because it's easier than mixing your own. My trusty spatula, which is a teaspoon. And then I'm gonna just put this all over this base. So this is one that I'm gonna do the old-fashioned way, if you like. And I'm gonna put this absolutely everywhere on this base. Oops. I think my filler is a little bit dry. So I'll crack on with this. I'll go back to you in a second. That's the filler all over it. As you can see, I actually go right up over the plastic bases as well and over the metal base of the horse. That's so when you dry brush it up, you can't see the smoothness of them bases. So, we'll do this one for a second. So moving on to this, I'm going to do the Luke's apps on this. So you can just apply glue straight to this and put that Luke's app stuff on. But I'm going to just put a little bit of fill around these edges, just to break up the shape. So that when I put it on, you can't see underneath, like hiding underneath the soil. You won't see them. It does mean it takes a little bit longer, but I just prefer that look. That's all the filler applied. As you can see, all I'm trying to do there is just break up the shape of them bases so they just blend in, so that when you put that Luke's app stuff over the top, you won't get that raised edge where the plastic base is. So I've done it on all of them. Can you see I'm not too precious with it, it's just trying to break that shape up. And same with that one. So now I've got to wait for this to dry, and once that's dry, I'll put some rocks on this one. The filler's dry, so I'm just going to put on some stones now. So I've got these. I'm going to pop a few down there. They're just fish tank stones. So I got them from a pet store somewhere. So what you do is get some PVA or white glue. You could use this. Oops. Luke's Apps Fast Dry and Basing Glue. I don't know if you see that, but I've got a dodgy one. It's like water. I spoke to Luke, he said he'd swap it, I just haven't got around to sending it back yet. So now we decide where we want to put the rocks. So I'm going to go with around about there. So blob on loads of PVA. I'll leave a bit of a gap here because I'm going to put a big tuft there. So let's put it up to the base of his feet. And I'll just put a bit more here and there, and then I'll start putting the rocks on. So I've just picked out a selection of slightly bigger rocks. And what I'm going to do, I'm just going to pop these onto the base, roughly where I want them. I find everything looks better in odd numbers. So I've got 3 there. I'll put a couple around here, so we'll just put a couple on this one. It says after just saying odd numbers are better. But there you go, a couple on there. And then we'll put a couple on this bit as well. 2, 3. And then a nice big one at this end. There we go. And then I've got these, kept these little stones separate. So what we're going to do is sprinkle some of them on. And then it'll look a bit more natural with having different sized stones. Like this. A few more on this bit. just sprinkle them on. Okay, so we got something like that. And then I have some gravel. Sorry for that noise. That I've got from a railway store. You know, like ballast, if you like. Move that away. Normally I'd just do this over the pot, but I want you guys to see, so sprinkle a little bit of ballast on. And the reason we wait for the filler to dry before I put this on is because I don't want these rocks getting stuck all over the place. I only want them where the rocks are. If you don't mind having the rocks all over the ground as well, then by all means just put it on while the filler's still wet. And then the last thing I'm going to do is I'm going to sprinkle some sand on. I'll just do that over the tub because I don't want to get sand all over everywhere. And then I'll bring it back. So, last touch, as I say, was just to put some sand on. So that's the base so far. As I say, I'm going to put a great big tuft there, and it's going to have some static flock and bits and pieces on it. So just going to wait for that to dry, and then we'll paint it. Pop it back down here. So I'm surrounded by ostriches at the minute. Now everything's dry, it's time to get some paint on. So for the base paint, I'm using Vallejo Flat Earth. Now my advice is don't use that. Go to your local hardware store and pick up some cheap tester pots of matte emulsion and use that instead if you can find a similar colour. But I've started with this, so I probably could have got some mixed up, but I've decided to stick with it. So all we're going to do is paint over everything for this. And also I've watered this down a lot, so it's really thin. So what will happen is it'll end up looking a little bit patchy when it dries, where it soaks in and stuff. But I want that to happen, because then it just gives me different shades of brown straight away. So on that I'm going to paint absolutely everything. And then on the Victrix, on the ones where I'm using Luke's apps, I'm just going to paint over the bits where I've got filler, and the rest of it will stay woody colour, because there's no need to paint that, because absolutely everything is going to be covered with that Luke's app stuff. Because on my own bases I am going to leave little gaps, so you'll see the mud showing through. So I'm going to paint all these up, wait for that to dry. Brown's dry, and as you can see it's nice and patchy, which is what I wanted. So next thing to do is I'm going to paint all the stones and stuff, and what I'm going to use for that is flat brown, because I want to give them, I've got paint all over my hands. I want to give them a brown undercoat, so you don't have to be too precious with this. Slap it all over, and then just wait for that to dry. Now that brown's dry, I'm going to dry brush over these, or overbrush because it's more of a wet brush, over these rocks. I'm going to use Vallejo Sky Grey. So it's going to be quite a heavy dry brush, because I want quite a bit of the grey on there. So the reason I put the brown on first is because it gives a more natural look to your rocks, rather than using a dark grey. It just makes them look that little bit better. Have you noticed that as wargamers we spend such a lot of time painting rocks and stones to look like rocks and stones? Anyway, I'm going to do them, and I'll get on to the next stage. So next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to use a yellow ochre, and I'm going to dry brush over everything. Oh, too much paint on there. Don't worry if you make little mistakes like that, because you can hide it with flock and tufts and stuff. And I'm going to put it a little bit on the rocks as well, not too much. again, because it'll just give the rocks a bit more of a natural feel to them. I'm not going to do this with the ones I'm putting Luke's app stuff on. It's only this one because I'm going to leave some of this ground cover showing once I get the flock on. So that'll do. Just in there. Right, that'll do. And now I'm going to do the rocks again. So for the final dry brush over the rocks, I'm going to use GW Ulthuan Grey. And then I'm just going to give these a light dry brush, just to pick out some edges. And then when I've done this, I'll get on to putting some flock on and some tufts. Something to do with the flock is, nearly knocked the phone over. Just, you know, if you want to leave a bit showing, just don't put it everywhere. So just pick your areas that you're going to put it on. Put it on quite thick. And just spread the areas about. So when you got the glue on, get your flock. Now I could use a static flock applicator for this, but I'm just going to sprinkle it on. Sprinkle that all over. I'm very nearly out of this flock. I think it's 2mm. It's GW1, so I should be able to replace it fairly easily. It says 9mm. Put that on, do a little shake like that, turn it upside down, 2 taps, and that's that. Next thing I'm going to do is apply some big tufts, and these ones I got from a company called Tajima Tufts. I haven't got many of them left, but they are pretty awesome, and they are self-adhesive. So I'm just going to pop one there, and then the rest I'm just going to dab little tufts all over the place now. So I'll crack on with that, and then while we're waiting for that to dry, we'll move on to Luke's apps bases. So moving on to the Luke's apps ones, as you can see I've painted them bits brown, they're dry now. And what I'm going to do here is I'm going to put PVA glue all over this, but you have to put it on really thick, because obviously PVA shrinks. So I'll get it coated in PVA and show you what I've got. So I've left a couple of gaps because that's where I'm going to put them big Tajima tufts, and the rest of it is going to be covered in Luke's apps Arid Earth. I can't show you this on camera because I need to do it in a pot, but basically you just shake it like mad, and then tip it all over, and I'll show you when it's done. So that's with it put on there, really simple. As I say, I put this in a pot and then just kind of shake the Arid Earth across the top of it, and I've just got to leave that to dry. But just before it dries, I'm going to stick a couple of these Tajima tufts on. So be very careful because I don't want to pull any of this Arid Earth basing off. Put one there. Put one there. Stopped my finger. There. And then I'm quickly going to stick some other flower tufts and stuff on. I'll show you the finished result. So I've just put a load of extra little flowery tufts and stuff on that. And you can see just in this video alone how much quicker that is to do than the normal basing. So I'm going to do these last two, and then I'll show you them all when they're dried. Oh, before I forget, there is one more step. I need to put flat brown all around these edges. Not so much on these, but definitely on the one that I've done myself to hide any dry brushing and stuff. But I always put flat brown around the edges of all my bases to finish them off. So I'll crack on with these last couple, and I'll show you the finished results. So I've shown you everything else on camera. I thought I might as well show the edges. So I'm using a dark flat brown, and I'm just gonna touch in all these edges so touching all these edges so it will hide any dry brushing errors or any other mistakes, and it will just frame off. I keep doing it off camera. It will just frame off the base. So that's them done. The bases are still a tiny bit wet with PVA in places, but pretty much dry now. So that's the old-fashioned way of doing it, if you like, how I used to do all my bases. And this one is the Luke's Apps one. Now, you can decide for yourself which one you like the best. Me personally, I like them both the same. And if this Luke's Apps stuff would have been about beforehand, I would have used that all the time because it's just so much quicker. Bring this one up. So I've just put some tufts on here, nothing major, and that's just the Luke's Apps stuff with some tufts on. I was going to put like a cannon on there, a broken cannon, but I've decided I'm just going to leave it now. So that's that. And then I've done this one. Oops. I haven't put any tufts on this, so this is if you just use the Luke's Apps stuff on its own. See, the PVA's a bit wet. Now if you get any gaps, don't worry about it, because you can just dive a bit more PVA on and put some more of that Luke's Apps stuff straight over the top of it. So just a difference if you put some tufts on. And then obviously I've painted edges on all the bases. So that's how I do my basing now. Oopsies. So decide for yourself which one you like the best, but as I say, I haven't really got a preference. I like them both look-wise the same, so I suppose the Luke's App would win it because it's just so much quicker. So I'll put some stills on these guys at the end. Thank you very much for watching. This video's gone on a little bit longer than I anticipated, to be honest. So sorry about that. And I'll catch you in the next one. Bye for now.